Well, kia ora koutou katoa. No more haere ki te manatū haora. Welcome back to the ministry today. So I am pleased to confirm there are no new positive Covid-19 cases in the community today. We have got 4 new cases in managed isolation to report. All 4 were identified at day 01 testing. Now, the fact there is no new community case today is reassuring, but clearly we are early on in this journey and not yet out of the woods. Based on last week's exposure events, which are listed on the locations of interest page on the ministry's website, we would expect to see any potential positive cases coming through from today onwards. In addition, we've just received the whole genome sequencing for case O, that is the mother in the 3rd family in this February cluster. This shows a linkage to the rest of her family and to the rest of the cluster. Another reassuring sign we are not dealing with a separate infection. On the testing front, there were 8,880 tests processed by our labs nationally yesterday. That will reflect largely the volume of swabs done on Sunday, which is a large number for a Sunday. And across the motu yesterday, in terms of swabbing, actually there were around 7,000 swabs taken just in Auckland, and around 3,000 of those at community testing centres, around 4,000 at GP and urgent care centres. We do expect high numbers again today and tomorrow, just from general testing in the community and as our casual contacts from the earlier Kmart and KFC exposure events come back for their follow-up tests. So since Sunday the 14th of February, there have been more than 70,000 tests in the community in Auckland alone, equivalent to more than 4% of the region's population. I want to thank everyone who has been tested. This is fundamental to us identifying if there is any wider spread in the community. 11 community testing centres operating around Auckland today. They can be found on the Auckland Regional Public Health website. And just a reminder, it's important that the right people come forward for testing, so we do want people who are either symptomatic or who have been at one of these exposure events to be tested. If you are not symptomatic or have not been at an exposure event, please stay at home. That's the most useful thing you can do for getting ahead of this outbreak under Alert Level 3. As always, if you have symptoms anywhere in the country, you should stay at home, call Healthline, and they will give you very clear instructions about where and how to get a test. And a reminder that this particular strain, the B117 variant, which originally was identified in the UK, we have seen this muscle aches as a common symptom rather than traditional respiratory symptoms, so do keep an eye out for those as well. Just in terms of travel in and out of Auckland, it's generally prohibited at the moment, as you would expect under Alert Level 3. So the most important thing Aucklanders can do to help stop any further spread of this virus is to stay at home as much as possible, work from home to the extent that you can, and certainly really stop any interactions with others outside your home. So I want to thank Aucklanders who really are doing this for the whole country and putting the greater good over your personal circumstances. There are, of course, exemptions for travel across the Auckland border. Work-related ones, of which there are many, are coordinated by MB. There are also some permitted reasons for individuals to travel, for example, if they are moving house or have to attend a healthcare appointment. We've to date confirmed with 1,637 people that their activities are permitted and that travel is permitted under the current arrangements. Likewise, there is an exemption process for special personal circumstances to travel, and to date, and the Ministry of Health coordinates that, to date we've had 1,381 exemption requests. 857 of those have been fully processed, and the teams are working hard to get decisions back to people. The outstanding ones, all those ones that have been processed, the decisions have been communicated. Now, I should say that almost no exemptions are being granted for weddings. A number of exemptions have been granted for funerals and tangihanga, but only for immediate family members or equivalent. And I understand that will be distressing for grieving family members and others in extended family or friends, and thank you for your understanding there. Just in terms of travel through Auckland from one side of the boundary to the other, it is only permitted when travelling to and from work and home. So just letting those people who think that they can transit Auckland to go on holiday either north or south of Auckland, very, very unlikely you will get that approved as an exemption this week. Our community providers are continuing to visit homes of isolating families where they need support. These are welfare checks to assess families' needs, make sure they have everything they need to be able to remain isolated safely, and of course to get access to testing. If necessary, they can access translation services and have access to a number of different languages translating key information. Just in terms of that exemption process, back to that, all the exemption processes are available on the Unite Against COVID website. Quick update on contact tracing. Of the 1,855 people from the school, all but 4 have had at least one test result returned, and the other 4 have got management plans isolation plans in place, and there are about 50 whom we're just waiting or following up the second test results from staff and students at the school. Again, a large group, and I want to thank everybody there. At the MIT, there are the 21 close contacts of KCM. They are all isolating and being tested, and so far the results from that testing, which is being done at the correct time, is all negative. The dates and times of interest are up on our website. The vast majority of the people who were on the campus at the same time as KCM are casual contacts, and the instruction to them is to, of course, be at home because it's alert level 3 and watch for symptoms. So you should limit your movements and interactions with others while you are doing so. In terms of city fitness at Hunter Plaza, there were 158 folk identified as possible contacts. They are classified as casual plus. They are being followed up by contact tracing teams to ensure they get a test and are isolating until that test comes back negative. And the KFC Botany Downs contacts, the 11 close plus contacts as they were categorised, 10 have returned negative results so far, and the other, we're just following up that test result. Thanks again to the wider Papatoetoe school community, have been fantastic in responding to the call for testing. And finally, another busy day at Healthline yesterday. More than 4,000 calls were taken. Half were to the dedicated COVID-19 information line. Waiting times average 26 minutes, and they have Healthline has 4 times the usual number of staff rostered on. And just a reminder to people, if you want general information, for example about testing sites or whether you were at a location of interest, please use the websites rather than ringing Healthline. And finally, huge thanks from me to everyone involved in the response here: lab technicians, their supervisors, contact tracers, public health officials, DHB staff, testing centre staff, working effectively around the clock on the response, and thank you for your support with that. I'm open to questions.
Can you please outline the communications that officials had with Family 3 or the family, in which case Al was injured?
Well, I don't have the detail of the communications that the public health unit would have had. However, I am aware that all members of the school community received at least 3 letters, one on the 14th, one the 17th, and I think the further one on the 19th. And having seen the content of those letters, it's very clear about what the expectations were on families. And I can also say that with this particular family and all the families where there were students who hadn't been tested by the time we got round to last Monday, there had been multiple attempts to communicate with both that family and others, including phone calls and texts and so on, and efforts to get alternative phone numbers to get in touch.
Do you accept there was any inconsistencies about the information given to families? And we have to have the context too, that there was information coming from the school, coming from officials, from the website. Are there any inconsistencies at all with what these families were being asked to do?
I don't think there were any inconsistencies. I think we were very clear about what the message was to the school, and I think we can point to the fact that over 98% of students had had a test before they returned to school last Monday. So I think it was very clear what the message was to the school community and what the expectation was. In fact, the requirement was on students. So I would look to the fact that actually And again, this is a large school. It's in my experience, this is remarkable that we got that high level of support and cooperation from those families. And I think it is a testament to the efforts the school went to and the public health unit went to, and to get good information out to families.
You've said that you're not that keen to make referrals to police. You don't want to create a culture of fear or making people reluctant. But at which point, especially given, say, the coverage around this particular case in the future, are those expectations stepped up for people who are getting the information but still break the rules in terms of how proactive you would be referring those health orders to the police or breaches?
Look, I think what's happened in this case is a salutary reminder to all of us about what can happen if people don't follow advice. And that's not just these whānau. There are a number of things that we all, or that Aucklanders need to be doing, and needed to be doing previously under Alert Level 3, that perhaps not, that we have all not necessarily been rigorous in doing. And I think this is the point that the PM was making yesterday. Actually, it's important we both hold each other to account, but also support each other. And the idea she came up with yesterday, if you see someone who's on public transport who doesn't have a mask and you have a spare, why not offer it?
But there be an extra level of government enforcement. I mean, the community and peer pressure is one thing, and we've seen it work in compliance, but at what point does the government step up its enforcement and send that message that actually these are legal requirements in place and they're being breached? They're laws that are being breached.
Well, they are indeed legal requirements, and in fact the alert level changes are of course underpinned by a legal order. I just want to go back to what has served our country well over the last year is by everybody doing their bit. We cannot police everybody's behaviour, and the campaign that lies behind our efforts is Unite Against COVID. It's not let the virus divide you. Okay, we actually need everybody to do their bit, and I'm still firmly of the view that that is really fundamental to our both success today and into the future. And I confirm that I would be concerned about a punitive or an enforcement type approach actually deterring people from either coming forward for testing and or volunteering information.
How frustrated are you that... Were there any Section 70 orders in place against any of the contacts in this cluster, be it family members of public toy students, anyone, during a time when we were into level 3?
So when Alert Level 3 came off and Auckland went into Alert Level 2, there was an order underpinning that. I did a yes, there's a separate order that is, so when we moved from a 3.2 to a 2.1, that's a separate new order. So that's the legal basis for Alert Level 2 and Alert Level 1. The requirement on the school community was articulated in a letter, and so that's an expectation of the public health unit. From last Monday, when the school was closed again, after we found that additional case and students were asked to be retested, yes, I signed a Section 70 order that effectively was a separate legal instrument to underpin what the requirement was on the school and its community from last Monday.